using that, send time optimization AI tool already has helped grow that engagement level. And then we make sure that we personalize all of our content. The content is personalized based on the data we've got on that individual.
Hey there, James here, and you're listening to the Own the Moment podcast, the show where we explore the complex and always evolving landscape of marketing, advertising, and branding, and try to get to the bottom of what it means to be a truly memorable brand. The Own the Moment podcast is brought to you by Como Technologies, a self-service, complete customer engagement platform that helps you cut through the noise to truly connect with your customers and retain and grow those connections over time. With Como, you can build and deploy new campaigns, activations, promotions, and programs in days, not months, and our software is used by some of the world's biggest consumer brands, from Heineken to Budget, Goodman Fielder, Foxtel, JLL, Williams Racing, and McDonald's. Learn more at como.tech. Today's guest is Robert Lopez, the Chief Marketing and Innovation Officer at North's Collective, an Australian hospitality group that operates 8 venues across New South Wales. Robert has taken North's on an expansive journey of digital and marketing transformation. In his own words, the hospitality industry was a laggard in terms of adopting modern marketing. But thanks to Rob and his team, North's Collective now boasts an impressive suite of modern martech tools across CRM, data cleaning, messaging, and ethical personalisation. Robert talked us through the journey, highlighted some of the key decisions taken along the way, and shared some clear examples of how this work is already driving measurable ROI. I hope you enjoy the episode. Robert Lopez, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Great. So, Rob, for those who might not be aware, could you give me a brief description of you, your role, and sort of how you ended up in the role that you're in today?
Yeah, definitely. So, Chief Marketing Innovation Officer here at North's Collective. Been here for 12 years. Know what you're thinking? The answer is yes. I had a full head of hair when I started at North's Collective all those years ago. I joined the company really in the marketing team, but really focusing on the digital and social media marketing side of it. And then sort of 5 years later, moved into a more senior marketing role across the group. We have a total currently of 8 hospitality venues and 2 fitness centres. So we are quite a large hospitality and health and lifestyle group. And we're membership based as well. So we have currently over 61,500 members across our entire group. In terms of my sort of journey here, the last 5 years, we'll call it, I've really been focusing on our digital transformation journey and how North's Collective can be set up for success well into the future with data living at the core of this journey.
Yeah, that's great. We're going to spend quite a lot of time talking about digital transformation. But before we do that, tell me about the state of the business when you joined. I don't know if this is sort of unfair of me, but my outside in perception of hospitality would be that digital would not be a sort of a core strength. So I'm just curious, as you joined the business, what was the state of digital, of martech, and I guess sort of marketing in general? What was it like when you walked in? And give for those that may not be aware of sort of that industry, what was the status quo some 5 years ago?
Yeah, well, if we go back to when I started 12 years ago, it was a very different world. Emails were being sent to members, but there was no personalisation. There was, the data was all siloed. You were constantly every month having to export data out of one system to import it into your emailing platform. There was no connectivity, no collaboration really with your data. And so what you'd find was happening was you were getting fairly low, open and engagement rates on your communications, and quite high unsubscribe rates because the content isn't being personalised to the members. And, back in 2012, that was the norm. I can talk on behalf of the hospitality industry. That really was what all hospitality venues were doing. Using social media, posting and whatnot, but not really driving personalisation or really any use of data to help drive a stronger, personalisation strategy across marketing. I think hospitality probably can put their hand up to say that they were laggards in some of this space. They really weren't at the forefront of change and adoption of, digital technology to help grow a membership base. We talk in hospitality about covers, restaurants talk about covers and head count and foot traffic and, number of mains sold and all of this stuff, but they never really look below the surface. They've never really, peeled it all back and said, well, how do we change habits? How do we change behavior using data? And when I started here at North Collective, we had, I want to get this right, 3 venues back then. We now have 8. And the only reason we're able to scale up, quite rapidly, we opened 4 venues in about 14 months, is because of the fact that we've got our foundation set. We've got our data set. We've broken down the data silos across the group, and we're really looking at our customers holistically with a full 360-degree view because of the fact that we've gone on this digital transformation journey.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I really want to dig into some of that today, that sort of concept of, peeling back or sort of, diving into the data and figuring out what are the actual drivers of business. Because as you say, I think that would be my, again, outside in perception as well, as it's very much about covers, bums on seats, but I suppose like any business, it's actually about how do you go and find those leading indicators of driving awareness, getting people into the venues, etc. Okay, so I think one of the things I'm excited to talk with you about, Robert, is digital transformation for me is such a vague term. What does it mean to you, and sort of how did you sort of position it as one of the drivers of that journey in the business? Did you get pushback, and how did you sort of set up the team and I guess the company to sort of to go all in? And then of course we're going to dive into the journey and all of the different phases. But what was it like to sort of get that project over the line? What did that look like?
Yeah, I guess I was lucky because, I had the buy-in of my CEO early on. So we were really, driving this change together. When it came to meeting with our board of directors, it was really important that we had all of our ducks in a row. We really had a clear vision. I think that's the key with any sort of journey that a company's on. What is your vision? And probably one of the first things that I did back in 2018 now, when we started talking about this, was actually develop a vision statement for our digital transformation, which was to be a true leader in digital transformation using new, sustainable and emerging technologies as a means to tell our story, build our brand and enrich relationships within our communities. And for me, it was so important that I could tell this story organisation-wide to get that buy-in. I guess, our business model is quite unique. We're part of the Registered Clubs of New South Wales, which means that all the profits that we make, they have to go back into the betterment of our facilities for our members, but back into the community. We give back about $1.8 million in community support every year to those who need it most. Very different to a pub or a hotel or a restaurant model, where it's privately owned and obviously the profits go into those individuals. So right from the beginning, having this vision statement, allowed me to go in with more confidence and more conviction in conversations, because there was a real reason behind us wanting to do this, and that was to allow us to better communicate, connect with and grow relationships with our community, our membership-based community, our local communities, our staff community. And I knew if I could get the buy-in from the beginning, if I could get an understanding across the organisation of the why behind this journey, then there'd be a lot less obstacles to overcome. There's always technical obstacles. They will always be there. But, if you can break down the barriers within departments and you can get them, into the conversation as well. It was really important for me to have them at the table from the beginning, all the different departments, food and beverage, catering, health and fitness, having them at the table to get their input so that when, we unveiled our brand new CRM and marketing, martech stack, they were able to then go across their entire departments and really tell that story. So I guess for me, and I like to use data transformation journey as much as the digital transformation journey, because the core of this, and I said it before, is data. This journey begins and ends with data, as we're going to obviously go delve into today.
Sure. That's interesting. So one of the things, when we had a chat before was, you said you had 3 really clear goals for the transformation and I guess the journey. Walk us through those and, maybe a little bit of the motivation behind each and I guess what it means. And then obviously we're going to dive into sort of, how you've gone and ticked those boxes.
Yeah.
But talk about the goals. What was that sort of vision, not the vision, but what was that sort of sell that you made to the business that you could really achieve with this investment?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of SMART goals, and I think you've got to have things that are achievable and realistic. So I went in there with these three clear objectives. The first was to be able to obtain a 360-degree view of our members, our customers. For me to be able to look at one individual customer, I'd have to go to 6 or 7 siloed systems and try to, merge data, and it would just be absolutely chaotic. So the first one was quite clear, get that single view of a customer. The second was to improve our business analytics because, first-party data is at the core of this. And by centralizing this data, it would allow us to make better, smarter business decisions into the future using real historical data and forecasting trends as well. And then the third objective was to be able to create a hyper-personalized omni-channel marketing strategy using our first-party data. So I went into the boardroom with those 3 clear objectives, and every project, sub-project, every element of a project that we've undertaken has to relate back to one or more of those 3, always. If it doesn't, we question the why behind why we're actually undertaking that project.
Right, makes a lot of sense. So walk us through sort of, how did the journey start? I mean, this ad's not this podcast is not an ad for Salesforce, but I know that Salesforce is, it's been a very close partner of yours. Talk through the steps that you took to start this journey. What were those couple of first baby steps you had to take, and maybe some of the challenges along the way as well?
Yeah, so I guess it all started with, it would have been a year and a half of investigation, to be honest with you. We kicked off January 2018, and I spent at least 18 months, looking at what's out there in terms of a tech partner to be on this journey with. And for us, we are a community, sort of not-for-profit community-based organisation, so we are very big on values. We choose partners that align with us on values and that can deliver what we need. So, I went through a whole list of probably 4 or 5 actually of potential tech partners from your Adobes, Oracles, so forth, and eventually landed on Salesforce. And we very much aligned on our values, and we could see that they were the leaders in the CRM space. They were the leaders, when it comes to innovation in that space as well. So I remember we signed on June 2019 with Salesforce, and from there we had our core partners who were helping us with the build-out. Obviously, we then had a bit of a lockdown, early 2020, so that didn't slow things down too much. We kept building during the lockdown, and we turned the lights on to our Salesforce tech stack in August of 2020. So it was roughly a 14-month build-out in total. And since then, we keep enhancing and growing that sort of Salesforce tech stack and its use cases. Every year, I sort of label it with a different sort of theme. 2022 for us was the year of personalization. We implemented digital personalization in the Salesforce Marketing Cloud stack. Last year was the year of ROI, and this year is a bit of a year of AI for us now as we start delving in that area.
Yep. Interesting. And so, on that note, so where are you in the journey now? What's working? What's left to do? Give listeners a sense of sort of where you're at on that journey with the stack and the tool set and the sort of types of things you're trying to do.
Yeah, I guess if we look at our objectives, we can tick off the first one very easily. We've got that single view of a customer. Through our middleware layer, Boomi is our middleware layer partner, we've got around 9 siloed systems, all feeding data into our Salesforce core CRM, which then feeds back out into Salesforce Marketing Cloud and Tableau, where we do our BI and analytics. So we've got that single view of a customer. Our analytics platform's allowing us to get smarter with our data, so we've ticked that off. And where we're really seeing strong results is in that hyper-personalized omni-channel marketing objective, where like the numbers are astronomical. And, you can throw numbers left, right, and centre, but these are all factual. I remember when I started pulling together sort of a slide deck that I was presenting to the board of directors, and I was doing a pre-Salesforce to a post-Salesforce a year on sort of data. And we were looking at a jump in open rates from around 23-24% with our old email client to in the 60% on average across our group, which is astronomical. Now, I won't lie, I think open rates are a little bit of a fluffy number. I don't always rely on them, so I really look at click-through rates. And for me, that's where I think we've had our biggest win. We've gone from average click-through rates of 1.4% to 11.9% on all of our email campaigns across the group. And that is because we're hyper-personalizing at all of our digital touch points. We launched our app last year, which is built on Heroku, natively integrated into Salesforce, and it already has shown us strong results because we're able to hyper-personalize in that environment as well, because we chose the right tech partner. So, it is a journey, and the decisions you make in the beginning really tell the story the whole way through. We're so fortunate to have partnered with the right tech partner in the beginning that's allowed us to grow at the speed that we have.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I assume one of the big benefits of driving that click through rate is there is a direct line to revenue and to growth. Could you walk us through perhaps a really clear example of where that work has really paid off? And the reason I ask is, I think personalization is another one of those sort of marketing buzz terms we throw around that sort of conceptually makes sense to everyone, but then it's putting it into practice that is maybe that extra step. You mentioned bingo on one of our earlier calls. Could you walk through that case? I guess sort of the setup. What was the problem? How did you solve it? And then obviously the results.
Yeah, definitely. So it's an interesting one, that, because we were looking at adding another day of bingo to our already 2-day bingo calendar, and so historically, sort of we'll call it pre-Salesforce days or pre-personalization days, we would send an email or a message out to maybe people over the age of 70. We'd choose an age, and we'd use that as our method of personalization back in the day. Whereas now, we didn't look at it like that. We said, okay, we've got all of this centralized data, and when someone plays bingo, they go up to a point of sale and they purchase a bingo book, which is part of a department in our POS system called Bingo. Let's pull on that data. Let's pull out that data, bring it into Marketing Cloud, and send a campaign out to that specific group of people who've purchased from that department in the last 12 months. And straight away, when you look at that data in front of you, you think, wow, I probably would have missed half of that audience if I based it purely on an age or demographical filter. So that was a really good example for us of just how personalizing that one campaign gave us great results, because we had, I think from memory, I don't want to throw numbers out, but it was in the 70% of open rates and around the 30% click-through rates on that campaign, because they're all bingo goers and they're all actively involved in that sort of side of our business. So we look at every communication from a personalization lens. Every email that goes out, regardless of which business unit it's coming out of, we always throw in send time optimization, which is an AI tool within Marketing Cloud that looks back at the last 90 days of engagement data from everybody in our database to determine the best time of day to send that communication out to that individual. So no longer is there the old marketing, calculation of 11 a.m. on a Tuesday is the best time to send an email. That's what it used to be. But we all live different lives now. I read my emails at about 4:45 in the morning when I'm giving my little boy his first bottle of the day. So, for me, that's the best time to send it to me. Using that, send time optimization AI tool already has helped grow that engagement level. And then we make sure that we personalize all of our content. We use dynamic content in all of our communication so that everybody's not receiving the same email every month as somebody else. The content is personalized based on the data we've got on that individual.
Yeah, I think there's so many interesting threads to pull on there, because I think it's ultimately this relevancy piece, which is, how do you make sure, because, with that bingo example, who you send the email to, I think it's equally important who you do not send the email to, right? Because that's part of building trust and we're going to talk about trust and ethics in data collection in a moment, but a huge part of that is also, don't spam me with things that are not relevant to me. I expect to be communicated to in a way that I want to communicate to. So I think that's really interesting. I think the other thing there that's very interesting is that just the insights that can be gained from, quite a simple task, sort of on paper at least, but by, unifying all of that customer data, I'm sure what you said there was that, in that demographic of bingo players, there are segments or groups that, you weren't aware of. I think, if you think about, as you say, the sort of the preconceived notion of a bingo player would be over 70, but actually, there's this huge group that aren't over 70, but are very much, high intent audience for that campaign or activation. So I think, that really shows the value of collecting that, that customer data, that sort of first party data in terms of that purchase
Yeah.
point. So that's really, really interesting. So I want to talk about something that I know you're passionate about, which is ethical personalization, because I guess, we are living in a changing landscape of marketing. Things like GDPR, the Privacy Act here in Australia, the California Privacy Act. I mean, these regulations are on the march, and I think we can only expect them to become more stringent. Obviously, Google has delayed their sort of cookie death a couple of times still, but it's on the way. And all of this means that all of this data collection has to be done in an ethical way. So, talk to me about how you think about this. Maybe dilemma is the wrong word, but the sort of the challenge of collecting as much data as possible, but also doing that in an ethical way that sort of builds trust. How do you think about that problem space?
Yeah, it's sort of this new concept, this ethical personalization thinking, and I first heard it in 2022 over at San Francisco. I was at Salesforce conference there and attended a session on ethical personalization, and I came back to our organization then and thought, you know what, I want to develop an ethical personalization policy for North's Collective that is customer facing, and excitingly, it's actually going to be going live in the next month to the public. So we've looked at it in the sense of really developing 4 key pillars of ethical personalization that we stick to, because the word trust comes back into it. Salesforce, that's their first value is trust, and we chose them partly because of their values, and our members trust us. After COVID, our members came back to our venues because there's familiarity, there's trust, they know the people. So we treat data the same way. I think it's important to make sure that you're open and transparent. That's our first pillar, is transparency. Transparent about what data you're collecting, how you're collecting it, and how you're using it. Because then into our second pillar, it's how you're developing trust through consented data collection. There's zero-party data. There's data that our members give us freely, and there's first-party data that we collect from our members. And we sort of break our data up into 4 key sort of types. We've got demographical and transactional data, which we've always been very strong in collecting because we're membership based. You have a membership card, you swipe it at the point of sale to pay a member's price when you buy your schnitzel. We can connect that fairly easily and always have been able to remember. It's the other 2 types of data that we've sort of established in behavioural data, because really our members' behaviours for us are important to know. When a member comes in, what day of the week, what time of the day, because we can then market to them more effectively if we know their habits around their visitation. Because if we don't know that, we could be marketing to somebody who never comes out after 5 o'clock about a steak dinner that we're doing. And then engagement data is our 4th type of data that we use. And that really is something we're growing stronger and stronger at now that we're communicating on more digital channels, understanding where our members are most likely to communicate back. We really then focus on our final pillar, which is, and I gave the example before, how we consider intent based on behaviour, not just physical attributes. We don't just want to market based on an age or a gender or a postcode, or an income level. We really want to market based on behaviour, transactional data, and really focus on what really that individual member, because out of the 61,500 members, we now have the power and ability to market to them on an individual level, but at scale. So our ethical personalisation policy will be a really good outline, and it's a go-to-market policy. It will be available to the public to read off our website under our corporate governance section, and I'm excited for it to go live.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting, and I mean, I think that's very much a. I think this is something that we're going to see more and more brands sort of lean into, that open, almost sort of, as you say, transparent sort of policy forward approach where they're very clear with, hey, this is what we're collecting and why, which obviously, historically has been absolutely less the case.
Definitely.
Rob, I could talk to you all day about this topic, but I know you're a busy man, so I want to move on to the quick fire round. And I want to ask you your favorite marketing campaign of all time.
Oh, okay. I've got a couple. I'm going to pick one. It's an oldie but a goodie. I like this one. It's from 2001 or 2002, and it was a Pepsi campaign. I still remember it. I can picture it visually, seeing it on television. No streaming services back in 2001. It was all, you have to wait for the ads to finish to keep watching the show. But it was really cool. It was a young kid went up to a vending machine and he put in his coin and he pushed the Coke button and the Coke can popped out. He put another coin, he put another Coke can, he put them both on the ground, and he stood on the Coke can, so he was tall enough to reach the Pepsi button. And then he walked away with his Pepsi and left the two Coke cans on the ground. It was a Pepsi campaign. It was brilliant. Really, really cool. Do you remember that one?
No, I don't, but that is just, memorable, funny, very much golden age of TV advertising by the sounds of it.
So cool.
In your view, what is the best brand in the world right now?
Oh.
Who's doing the best brand work? Maybe is another way to phrase that.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to say Nike. I think, ignoring the movie that came out recently, I think Nike.
Right.
They, I still remember post-COVID that really inspirational video campaign they came out with. The people they got on there, the visuals, the elements. I do think Nike are world leaders when it comes to what they're doing with their brand.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you right now, they're a very common pick in this segment for very good reason. Yeah. What do you think is the most overrated trend in marketing right now?
I'm addicted to it. I love it, but I'm going to say TikTok. I've tried it from a marketing tool, and
interesting.
I just think, unfortunately, TikTok is not helping us marketers because it's shortening the attention span of the consumer even more than what it already was. And, I think we used to say, we've got 5 seconds to capture someone's attention. I think we've got 2 seconds now. And I blame TikTok and short form video. I love it, I must admit. As a user, I love scrolling through and watching some stuff on there. But I think from a, marketing right now, and I just think it's not a great platform for most use cases.
Right, interesting. And hey, look, I don't know if you follow the news, but maybe it won't be around in 12 months' time. So the opposite then. What's the most underrated trend in marketing? What do you not think we as an industry spend enough time investing in, talking about?
I'm going to say partner marketing. I think there's so much positivity in collaboration, and I don't think enough brands collaborate enough. I think, really partnering and understanding where, like values. I talk about Salesforce, a lot, and we partner a lot, and we talk on stages a lot together about our journey. And I think that journey is made so much stronger and the message is so much clearer and the story is so much rewarding because of the partnership. And I don't think enough companies are looking at partner marketing.
Yeah, it's a great answer. One I actually haven't heard yet, so that's great. Last question: who should I have on the show next? Who's someone in the industry that you really respect, or you think is sort of making waves, doing interesting things?
Oh, right, okay. Oh, tricky. I don't want to offend anybody here by leaving people out. I'm going to go the CMO of Canva, Zach Kish. Zach is exceptional. I mean, Canva is exceptional. They're another leading brand. Unreal. So there's another leading brand to add to that earlier question. But the stuff that Zach has done and his story is just exceptional. He'd be brilliant to hear from.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant answer. Robert Lopez, thank you so much for coming on the show.
James, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Own the Moment podcast. If you liked this episode, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss upcoming episodes. And to suggest a guest or provide feedback, please visit our dedicated podcast hub at ownthemomentpod.com.